Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sah Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Vadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Ramo Rajamanis Sada Vijayate Ramam Ramesham Bhaje Ramena Bihata Nishacharachamu Ramaya Tasmai Namaha. Ramannasti Parayanam Parataram Ramasya Dasosmyaham Rame Chittalaya Sada Bhavatu Me Bho Rama Mamuddhara Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidwaram Sadgurum Brahma Vidwaram. Hari Om. We'll be seeing a new text before we pause for our winter break. And the name of the text is Hastamalaka Stotram. We know that Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji had 4 main disciples. Although he had many disciples, the 4 main disciples we know are Sureshwaracharya ji, then is Padmapadacharya ji, Totakacharya ji, and Hastamalakacharya ji. This is the composition of the 4th disciple, whose name was Hastamalaka. Hastamalaka literally means, the avla fruit, the gooseberry fruit kept on a palm. One who has doubtless knowledge of the nature of the self, just like we have doubtless knowledge of that fruit kept on the palm. So that is Hastamalaka, just the name. And this entire verses which are there, are revelations or, statements of ecstasy, if you want to say that way, of Hastmalakacharya ji. It is said the meeting of Guru and Shishya, the teacher and the student, is very divine. How it happens, in what way it happens, only Bhagavan knows. So the background behind this text is very interesting. Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji used to travel the length and the breadth of this country, and he would go walking to different places. One place near Karnataka, in Karnataka, near Udupi district, there is a Mukambika temple. So Bhagavan was visiting that place, and nearby there was a village called as Srivalli. And in that village was a Brahmana, his name was Prabhakara. This Brahmana, Prabhakara, he had a son who was unlike any other child. He looked very talented, looked very skilled, very healthy. But he would not take any interest in the world or would not show any other characteristics that a child of his age should be showing. No interest in playing, no interest in talking to his friends, nothing. So Prabhakara and his wife, they thought, I heard that, some great Mahatma has come to the temple and our village. Why not we take our boy to him? So they take Prabhakara and his wife, they take the little boy to Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji. And Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji recognizes who he is. He says, this is not any ordinary boy. This is a realized soul present in this particular child's body. Means he has already done his sadhanas in the previous births, gained knowledge also in the previous birth. He only had to take another physical body because of some pratibandha. What is pratibandha? Pratibandha means somebody who is on the spiritual path, everything is, well aligned, but some desire comes which will take this person away from that path, but not permanently. It's a small detour, and then again you come, join the freeway. Something like that. Best example of this is Raja Bharata. In Bhagavatam, we had seen Raja Bharata was a great rishi. He did so much of tapasya, had so much of knowledge. But one desire came about that deer. He saw one deer, very tiny little deer. And that desire made him take another body as a deer. And then he is again born as Raja Bharata. But if you look at only Raja Bharata, you wonder, he is not talking, he is not doing anything else, only interested in abiding in this knowledge. So such people are called as Jata Siddha. Jata Siddha means born realized. Why? Because they have already done their journey in the past birth. Pratibandha means that. Some desire, some obstacle which came in between, made that sadhaka go on a detour, and now he has to again take a human body. So Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji realizes that, and he asks him a very simple question. Just question that we ask when we meet anybody. Who are you? What is your name? Questions like that. But answer given to that is very, very profound. This is the beauty of this text. Question is relative or transactional, but answer given is absolute. Okay. And the verses which the boy says, that Bhagavan Shankaracharya says, his knowledge is as clear as this amla fruit kept on the hand. That is why we will call him Hastamalaka. And he says, not only that, these verses are so profound that I will write commentary on them. So this is the only text, one of the few texts, where the teacher has written commentary on students' work. This is Shankaracharya's humility. Otherwise, he would have said, let your student write. Why should I write? He says, no, this work is so great, it doesn't matter. In Hastamalaka Stotram, who is the student? Because question was asked by Shankaracharya ji, answer is given by Hastmalakacharya ji. Can we say Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji is the student? He says, no. Both of them are reveling in this knowledge. We all are students. That is another side of Hastamalaka Stotram. The meeting of Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji and his teacher, Govinda Bhagavat Padacharya ji, that was also similar. Very divine. It is said Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji first went to Gauda Padacharya ji to learn Advaita Vedanta. Gauda Padacharya ji was so absorbed in this knowledge, he said, I am not taking any more students. Imagine, somebody like Shankaracharya ji comes to him and he says, I am not taking any more students, or I am not having that desire to teach also now. That was Gauda Padacharya ji. But he said, I have a disciple whose name is Govinda Bhagavat Padacharya ji. You can go to him. And Govinda Bhagavat Padacharya ji was sitting on the banks of Narmada ji. And there also he asks the same question. Who are you? Answer that Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji gives is called as Dashashloki. In 10 verses, he summarizes the essence of Advaita Vedanta. And he says, this is who I am. Just like the teacher, so is the student over here. Hastmalakacharya also of the same caliber, same expression. The purpose of studying Hastamalaka Stotram is to get knowledge like Hastmalakacharya ji. Clear knowledge of Atma, that will take place if one studies Hastamalaka Stotram sincerely. The process is the same. In Vedanta, this kind of clear knowledge is called as Samshaya Viparyaya Rahita Jnanam. Samshaya means doubts. About this amla fruit which is there on my hand, I don't have any doubts. Whether it is amla or something else, or no doubts about it. Viparyaya, I don't think that to be something else also. Samshaya means I doubt how is this fruit amla. Viparyaya means I take this amla fruit to be something else. Erroneous notions. None of this is there. That kind of knowledge is called as Hastamalaka Jnanam. This phrase in Shankar Bhashya also, Bhagavan Shankaracharya uses. How should our knowledge be? He says Hastamalakavat. Just like that amla kept in your hand, like that clarity should be there about our nature as Atma. The sequence is the same. The first step, knowledge will take place only when I use pramana. Many of us have studied pramana vichara previously. So first step towards that Hastamalaka Jnanam is listening to Vedanta very thoroughly and for an extended period of time. Right? Monsoon shower, like that our Shravanam should be. And with this note to ourselves that Vedanta is the valid means of knowledge, the only means of knowledge to know nature of Atma. That is called as doing Shravanam with Varanam. Varanam means what? I have an exclusive goal to abide in my nature as Atma. Without that, it becomes mere information. I have studied physics, I have studied math, I also studied Vedanta. But if I have this silent note to myself that Vedanta is pramana and no other means of knowledge will tell me nature of Atma, my goal of life is to abide in this knowledge. He says that is the first step towards going there. Second is, I should resolve all my doubts. If at all there are doubts, using the same Upanishad, with lot of reverence, thoroughly inquiring. Bhagavan Shankaracharya pointed this out in Sadhana Panchakam. He said, after you hear Mahavakya, after you hear Vedantic teaching, don't waste too much time going in erroneous logic. Why? Because Upanishad is pramana. Even if you prove it other way through logic, it doesn't matter. Just like you have the amla fruit on your hand. Somebody comes in, logically proves this is an apple. Logically. What would you say? You say, I don't need your logic because my pramana has told me this is that fruit. I can use logic to get more conviction there. You say that is how we should look at Upanishads and the logic that is used on top of Upanishad. This part is internally churning Upanishad mantras. Example given is of an arani. In olden days when they light the fire, he says that there is one top cup and there is a bottom cup, and you churn both of them at a great speed, and the spark comes out. He says the top cup is tatpada, bottom cup is tvam-pada. And you churn Mahavakya, this knowledge which I had heard gets assimilated in me. In that knowledge in which I have had conviction about, that knowledge I can effortlessly meditate. That is the third step. Towards what? Hastamalaka Jnanam. No erroneous notions, no other doubts. That is called as Nididhyasanam. But if the first two bricks are not placed in the right order, it says Nididhyasanam will not be very fruitful. In the sense, this sadhaka will wonder, what am I doing? Either that sadhaka will feel, in spite of sitting for meditation, my mind is going all over. Or having sat there, nothing comes to mind. Why? Because Shravanam is not done. Right? What comes to our mind is only that which we have heard, which we have seen. So ideas of Vedanta are also like that. They will not randomly appear. Shravanam and Mananam also has to be done. So this sequence will take us towards Hastamalaka Jnanam. Now, what is the uniqueness of this text? Hastamalaka Stotram. What is the apurvata? Uniqueness. Uniqueness is, it gives us a framework to shift our attention from our relative identities to our absolute identity. Or you say, transactional identity to absolute identity, how to shift my attention. That is the main topic of Hastamalaka Stotram. It is just like an actor feeling that I am still that actor after the play is done. Okay? Being an actor was his relative identity. But after that play is done, or even while the play is going on, he should not lose sight of his absolute identity. You must have seen that Ramayana serial that used to come, right? Ramanand Sagarji. Some of their pictures were behind the screen. Like they would show what happens behind when they were shooting and framing the videography and everything, what happened behind the scenes. So there you will see Bhagavan, Rama and Ravana both discussing like what should be our dialogue and this and that. Very good friends, both of them. But on the screen you come, so much of anger, the dialogue, the emotion and everything. But even after the filming is done, if Ravana and Bhagavan Rama, they speak in that way, how laughable it would be, right? So that is our story. Our absolute nature is pure consciousness. All different transactional identities have come to us, but taking them alone to be the only identity I have, you say it is just like that actor who has forgotten his absolute identity and is completely immersed in that role. Somebody might ask, why do you call them transactional identity? What do you mean by them? Right? Relative identity, transactional identity. What do you mean by them? We should start with very simple analysis, not directly go to some complicated thing. All relations I have, you can classify that as first transactional identity. All sambandha, son, daughter, father, mother, brother, sister, all of them are transactional identities. Why do we call it transactional? Because it is only through this physical body. And this physical body has been given to us in this Janma. In previous Janma, this Jiva had a different body. So Sambandhas were different. All other relationships were different. That is why we call it relative. It changes with Janma. These are some fundamentals of Sanatana Dharma. When we say Punarjanma, when we say Jiva goes through several different lives. So these points we should reflect upon, and wherever we can, we should connect the dots. These are not only technical topics for discussion. Sadhana also, they help a lot. What is the first lesson they will tell us? All the relations, whatever we have, it's a transactional identity, not my absolute identity. How to have healthy relation with all those identities, that is part of sadhana. That also we have seen in several other places. It says divinize all those relations. The example I was sharing, right? Puja Guruji telling that if you are calling your parents, don't just call them as parents, call them as Bhagavan. That bhava we can have inside. Nobody stops us from that. Right? Even if other duties that we are taking care of, doing that duty as worship of Bhagavan. Right? Same relation is there, but this knowledge should be, or will get very clear, will get more settled in, that this is not my only identity. Second is professional identity. All of us identify as somebody or the other. Somebody says, I'm a doctor, I'm an engineer, I'm an artist, I'm a musician. All different identities we have. We say that is also transactional identity. Why transactional? Because it has come at a time and it will not be there at some time. And if I insist on only this identity to be my absolute identity or only identity, which one? Relative one. Because when that thing will not be there, then I will struggle for an identity. Right? Because that was the only thing I held on to. And the nature of that thing is such that it will keep changing. At some point, very politely people will say, now I think it is time to retire. But this sadhaka cannot, let go of that identity. Still, he will hold on to it. So that is in terms of professional. And you can take several others. Miscellaneous, you put all other identities. I am, citizen of this country, so and so. Nothing wrong with any of them, but only thing to remember is those are not absolute. Once that identity has changed, right? I am a citizen of this country. What we had previously, now it is different. That itself shows it is relative. Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji in Bhajagovindam says, one will appreciate abidance in absolute identity only when we see shortcomings in relative identities. Otherwise, if somebody is very comfortable with all relative identity, no matter you study Hastamalaka Stotram or any Upanishad, it will not appeal to us. And this is also a part of Vedantic teaching. Vedanta is not only technical discussions around certain topics. It is a duty of teachers like Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji to give us the right perspective towards these other identities. So Bhagavan says, there is only one door. From that door, Sukham will come. From the same door, disappointments also will come. He says, relations give Sukham or not. Of course, it gives. But he says if you pay closer attention, disappointment also comes to the same door. Children, when they grow up, they only say, right, to parents, that I think we are independent now. We should not micromanage our lives. We are okay on our own. Those things which come our way, sadhaka should pay closer attention. What things? The disappointments that come. In fact, that becomes a greater teacher than the sukham. Then the joys which come, joys are okay, we can handle it. But the disappointments which come, he says that should turn our attention towards our absolute identity. Profession, if we think that is our only identity, time and again, disappointments come there also. Some criticism to our work. If we have worked very hard, done everything, he says this sadhaka, if that was the only identity, he will not have any other support. Criticism of work, he will feel it is my criticism. And that becomes source of dukkham. I'd heard recently about one politician who resigned. He was the chief minister of a state and he resigned. People asked him, why did you resign? He said, you criticize me, I can handle it. You criticize my work, I cannot handle it. Because so much of effort, so much of identification is there with that role. If somebody said, 10 years you were chief minister, and what work did you do? He said, that I could not take. That is why I have quit. Point is, only a person who sees limitations in relative identity will start seeking absolute identity. And what do we call such a person? Mumukshu. What we see in our other texts, right? Who is a mumukshu? Mumukshu is the one who has realized shortcomings of relative identity. He has understood that this is another name of finitude. No matter which identity it is. I am, after that, whatever you want, you add. I am, 2 words. After that, you see whatever name you want to add, whatever identity you want to add, all those will fall under finite identity. So that finite identity will never give us absolute happiness. Then what should we do? Study Hastamalaka Stotram. Okay. There is one line which comes in Yoga Vasishta. Vasishta Rishi is telling Bhagavan Rama. This is the state of Bhagavan Rama. He goes out with Vishwamitra Rishi, sees the world and realizes the shortcoming of all these identities. Comes and sits in the court not wanting to do anything. He says, unless I abide in my absolute identity, I don't want to go anywhere. And there is one beautiful line in Yoga Vasishta. Vasishta Rishi says, Akhinnam kshanamasinam pashya samsara natakam. Akhinnam means without getting disappointed. Kshanamasinam, even for a short time, don't get disappointed by this world. What should I do? Just look at the play of this world. Pashya samsara natakam. What does that word mean? You are an actor, not the absolute identity of yours is not of that actor. And natak, if you split the word, right, it becomes na atak in Hindi. Na atak means what? Don't get stuck. This is a play. Don't get stuck with any role. Make sure that you shift your attention to absolute identity. Okay, with this much introduction, we will enter into Hastamalaka Stotram. First verse is the question by Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji. He is just asking, who are you? Let us see the verse now. Kastvam shisho kasya kuto siganta. Kastvam shisho kasya kuto siganta. Kim namate tvam kuta agatosi. Kim namate tvam kuta agatosi. Etanmayoktam vadachar bhakatvam. Etanmayoktam vadachar bhakatvam. Matpritaye priti vivardhanosi. Matpritaye priti vivardhanosi. Together. Kastvam shisho kasya kuto siganta. Kim namate tvam kuta agatosi. Etanmayoktam vadachar bhakatvam. Matpritaye priti vivardhanosi. First two lines, Bhagavan is asking his relative identity. Means questions are as though they are of relative identity. Says, Kahatvam, hey Shisho, who are you? Kasyatvam, whom do you belong to? What would be the answers? He says, I am so and so. I belong to Prabhakara and my mother. Kutosi Ganta, where are you going? Or where have you come from and where are you going? Immigration, same questions they ask, all these things. Kutosi Ganta, Kim Namatetvam, what is your name? And Kuta Agatosi, from where have you come? Those of you who attended the retreat, do you remember something about Kutosi Ganta, Kuta Agatosi? Where are you going and where have you come from? Honeybee example was given. Right? All of us have come from Sat and we go back into Sat. Jnani is the one who knows, Ajnani is the one who does not know. What does Ajnani say? What does the ignorant say? Immediate cause. He says, I have come from food or I have come from parents. But he says, absolute, go back, trace even where did they come from, and finally you will reach that Satvastu. If you study Upanishad, all these words will open up more. He is not asking where he has come from, right? Which village you have come from, which village are you going to? Not that question. Why? Because next line you see what he says. Etan mayoktam vadachar bhakatvam matpritaye. Means matpritaye vada. I have recognized you, you are no ordinary child. So these questions which I have asked, please answer them. Hastmalakacharya must have asked why. Matpritaye. Shankaracharya says, so that we both can revel in this Atma Rasa. Because I know that you will not give an ordinary answer. You will give an answer which will make us abide in this knowledge, make us revel in this knowledge. Matpritaye vada. And then last quarter is Priti Vivardhanaha Asi. Just looking at you, the joy in my heart is swelling. It is growing more and more. That is why I want to know more about you. This is what we were discussing yesterday in the Ramayana class. One of the signs of this spiritual knowledge, right? Or one of the expression of the spiritual knowledge is that person's personality should become sweeter. Knowledge which is there in the intellect, in which that jnani is abiding, it should also express in sense organs, meaning in all transactions. So much so that even if others don't recognize the knowledge part of it, they will recognize their vyavahara part of it. This is what we see in all great Mahatmas. In Bhagavan Rama, in the Mithila Prasanga, right? When Bhagavan goes, Bhagavan's personality was so sweet, his children would come and touch him. They would just, be around him like bees. They did not know about what Bhagavan's knowledge was, right? But that ahankara which is there, when that is dissolved, natural expression of that is that sweetness. The tribal people, Kolakirata, who were there, they did not know anything about knowledge and Bhagavan's nature and everything, but they just loved Bhagavan. Say why? No reason. If ahankara is dissolved and that Mahatma is reveling in Atma Rasa, anybody who comes around, they will have the same thing. Mat pritaye is the last part is priti vivardhanaha asi. So Bhagavan Shankaracharya is feeling that for Hastmalakacharya ji. He says, I know that you are not ordinary, please answer. Now this is why it takes a long time for Guru and Shishya to meet. Very divine meeting it is. But others probably did not ask such a question to Hastmalakacharya ji. Now he has gotten that opportunity. Whatever this knowledge is there, that comes out as Hastamalaka Stotram. The notes in the CCMT book that we have are by Pujya Swami Purushottamanand ji, one of the most senior-most Swamijis in our mission. Swamiji has taken one commentary by Eknath ji Maharaj, who was a saint in Maharashtra. Very beautiful metaphors are given. For everything, he gives metaphors. So Swamiji has translated it from Marathi to English, whatever relevant metaphors are there. So for this burst of poetry from Hastmalakacharya ji, the metaphor given is of a diamond. When the sun comes, the sun rays that get reflected, the diamond starts shining. Another example is that ocean and the moon. When it's a full moon, this ocean swells up. He says Hastmalakacharya ji is swelling up in that Atma Rasa by just having Shankaracharya ji in front of him. And last one he says is cuckoo and the spring. When the right season comes, this bird starts singing. You can read the English commentary. It's very beautiful. All key points are mentioned. Swamiji was the regional head of Maharashtra and Goa region, Swami Purushottamanand ji. One statement that rings in my head from Swamiji's lecture is, he would say, after you understand, stand under it. That was his trademark sentence. Whatever little you understood in Vedanta, go and stand under it. In all remote villages, Swamiji used to go in Maharashtra, small villages, and there he spread Gurudev's words. So invoke his grace and blessings also as we study this. Question by Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji. Now is the answer. Hastamalaka Vacha, second verse. Naham manushyo nacha deva yaksho. Naham manushyo nacha deva yaksho. Na brahmana kshatriya vaishya shudraha. Na brahmana kshatriya vaishya shudraha. Na brahmachari na gruhi vanastha. Na brahmachari na gruhi vanastha. Bhikshur na chaham nijabodharupah. Bhikshur na chaham nijabodharupah. Naham manushyo nacha deva yaksho. Na brahmana kshatriya vaishya shudraha. न ब्रह्मचारी न गृही वनस्थः भिक्षुर्न चाहं निजबोधरूपः. Bhagavan asked, "Who are you?" Hastmalakacharya is answering, "Who I am not." Whatever remains after negating what I am not, he says that I am. This is his style of answering. First line he says, "Na aham manushyaha." I am not a human being. Nacha deva. I am not even a devata. Nacha yakshaha. Yaksha are another type of devatas. All these are identities given to Sharira, physical body. By saying this, he is indicating I am not this physical body. Not only human physical body, but even exalted forms of expression, devatas or any other Sharira. He says, I am none of that. Then second line, na brahmana. I am not a brahmana. Na kshatriya. Not a kshatriya. Meanings you all know, right? Brahmana. These are all varna dharma. These are very tricky words to translate, but we have seen this before. I hope all of you are on the same page. Varna means that which is determined based on my guna and karma. All of us have, predetermined tendencies that we all have come with. And we are adding also new ones as we go. Varna is a framework for us to channelize those tendencies. Means if some tendency is there of more tamas pradhana, not too much of wanting to do any work, thinking is far away. The roles will be given to that person by which that person can come out of tamas. Like we all see in our own routine, right? When mind doesn't want to do anything, it's feeling lazy, tamasic. What is the best way over there? He says, do something rajasic. A repetitive work you do, or something that will make us come out of that tamas. So like that, different varnas were created based upon our own tendencies. No varna is, greater or lower, and also no varna you can remove from the system. All four varnas are required. Brahmana, those who are more thinking oriented. Kshatriya, those who are warriors, more rajasic in nature. Vaishya, those who are good in money matters, trade. And Shudra is the one who will do more of the implementation part of it. Right? That same ideas which were there, Brahmana cannot do all of it. So this person will take care of the implementation part. Most important is, all these are which identities? Relative or absolute? So these are relative identities. They have come with a time, and they will, or they should be, transcended with time. Automatically, they will not get transcended. I will have to inquire and appreciate what was the purpose of having those identities. Purpose was only one, to take my mind from an instinctive mind and to put it in a beautiful, disciplined mind. All varnas, next line is all ashramas, brahmacharya, grahastha, vanaprastha, sannyasa. Purpose of varna, purpose of ashrama is just to train this mind to not just be instinctive. Whatever this mind likes, that it will do. To train it from that state with lot of do's and don'ts, and then bring it to a well-controlled, well-disciplined mind. When that happens, purpose of that varnashrama is served. Like if somebody says, I am a brahmachari. And now what is this? This is an ashrama, right? Now you see Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. Within that you will find one combination. A brahmachari, having more tendency towards seva, let us say. So he will be put under the second category, Kshatriya or Vaishya category. Brahmachari with lot of sattva, or you say wanting to do more study. Brahmacharya plus Brahmana combination. Now each ashrama you can pair it. Grahastha also you will find those who are more thinking oriented. So they will be under Brahmana. Or more rajasic in nature. So Kshatriya, Vaishya and so on. Thinking that I am the body, I am the mind is naturally there. So Shastra comes and does something called as Adhyaropa. Adhyaropa means what? Adhi Aropa. Adhi Aropa. Which Sandhi? Yana Sandhi. Adhi plus Aropa became Adhyaropa. Aropa means to put something. Adhi means on top of something. I already think I am the body. I already think I am the mind. So Shastras say, use that same identity, but purify yourself through those identities. So I am a brahmachari, I am a grahastha. Any identity we take will come with do's and don'ts. No identity will be there, without any kind of expectations. Or if you want to give some guidance about duties, right? You cannot just give a generic guidance. Like even in company, if you join, they will not have a generic guidance for all roles. They will say, if you are an engineer, then this is your identity. Or this is your role, this is your expectation. If you are managerial position, this is your expectation. You are supposed to bring more, projects, whatever that is. And higher up we go, different expectations. The point is, roles and duties cannot be generic. They have to be very specific. That is why in dharma also, dharma cannot be generic. So it has to be for brahmacharya, it will be different dharma. For grahastha ashrama, it will be different dharma. Vanaprastha and sannyasa, different dharma. What is dharma for one ashrama can become adharma for another ashrama. That is the whole purpose of locating ourselves. Where are we? In grahastha ashrama and then the varna also. But we should remember that this is not our absolute identity. It has been given for a purpose, and I have to transcend those identities. What happens in our case is we have never taken up those identities. We identify more with engineer, doctor, musician. We don't identify much with Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. Nor do we identify with ashramas like that. Brahmacharya, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyasa. So we have to understand in our own ways. I am a sadhaka, even if that identity we hold on to, that is good enough. We might not technically hold on to varnashrama. Okay. But what is the main result of that? Purify this mind, make it more mellower. But don't stay there. Abide in Atma. That is the last quarter. Bhikshuhu means sannyasi. Bhikshuhu na cha aham nija bodha rupaha. Don't go in shunyam. If you negate all identities, what remains? Say, I am not this body, I am not any of the titles, nothing I am. Then who am I? Nija bodha rupaha. I am of the nature of pure consciousness. That alone is my identity. Now, actually, we have not started Hastamalaka Stotram. These two verses are, it is said, just the conversational verses. Bhagavan Shankaracharya does not write bhashya on these two. His commentary starts from the third verse. So that we will see from the next session. If there are any questions, you can turn them in. If not, I'll take a few that were submitted on the Google form also. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. In person also, if you have any question, you can ask. Generally, we spend last few minutes just with Q&A. Those of you who are new might wonder what we are doing. You can put it in the Q&A chat if you have any meanwhile. This is a question from Praman Vichara. I'm glad all of you are thinking in different ways in your own vocabulary. Hari Om. If a person is foreign to Vedas and Mahavakyas and hasn't heard Shabda Pramana through a realized Guru, but let us say in all other aspects, through dedicated sadhana, this person has quietened and purified the mind and ceased all spandana in the mind. Will such a person realize the one truth, the self, because it is self-illuminating? Is there no chance for an Eskimo living in a remote village near the Arctic, but has developed sufficient quietude to realize the truth of Atman and its Aikya with Brahman? If self is self-shining, shouldn't the misidentified I naturally gravitate towards its own real nature, wherever it is, and eventually maybe after many janmas realize its real self? Like moth towards light, or like a dreamer would naturally wake up. Since dream is not a natural state, it gravitates towards the waking state. One thing we should keep in mind is ignorance of anything will not go away by itself. Right? If ignorance about my nature as Atman, that is the problem, that is bondage. Just like my ignorance about other things don't go away without using right means of knowledge, without bringing that thought about that topic, ignorance about my nature as Atma will not go away with time. Few janmas is nothing because we have lived countless janmas. Anadi Mayaya Suptaha, it is said. Anadi means not one or two, thousands, thousands and thousands. Not only in human body, but in all other sharira. When we say Atma is self-shining, it is a substratum of everything. It is a substratum of everything, including ignorance. Because there are two different planes of reality, and it is the substratum, they can coexist. Right? Ignorance and knowledge cannot coexist. But ignorance and its substratum Brahma can very well coexist. That is how we have been living for so long. But if knowledge of Brahman, that knowledge comes, then we say ignorance and knowledge cannot coexist. It will remove that ignorance as long as I follow that process. Hastamalaka Jnanam, we saw 3 steps. Those steps, if I sincerely follow, there is no way knowledge will not take place. That much guarantee Vedanta gives. Pramana, if one person has used, and other sadhanas are done to not make this mind go too outside, too extrovert, then knowledge will take place. One thing is knowing that I am Atma. I am not this body, I am not this mind. If you just use logic, Drigdrisha Viveka, you can come to that point. Right? Whatever is seen, I am different from the seen. Like this laptop is seen, I am different from this laptop. My eyes are seen, mind is different from this eyes. My thoughts are also seen, so there should be something which is different from thoughts. Simple. You see, that is Drigdrishya Viveka method. But what is the nature of this seer? That will not be known to me with time. For that, I will have to go to Upanishad, understand nature of this Atman. This Atman is infinite. It is not limited to only this body, mind, intellect. It is not a light which is glowing inside. It is that consciousness in which this entire creation is appearing. That knowledge I will not get without pramana. What will happen is, for that example which is given, if that sadhaka has beautified the mind, has gained all the qualities, our transactional life will have less ups and downs. Right? Because we see so many people, they don't take things very seriously. In our own family, you will see, friends you will see, very happy-go-lucky. Right? What in Avadhuta Gita we say, one should become like air, not hold on to any fragrance for a long time. Like that we see people, but not necessarily spiritual. So those qualities will give their own results. We should not deny that. But that does not guarantee knowledge of self will take place. No other way other than pramana vyapara. So you add all the qualities of pramana that we saw. It cannot be known by other means. Once known, it will not get negated. All those things apply here also. Just like you cannot know the form through any other means, like form of any object. Other than eyes, we cannot use any other pramana. Upanishad also, we cannot say it will suddenly come with time, or nature of Atman will get revealed to me. Atman is self-shining. Even now it is self-shining. Even during ignorance, Atman was self-shining only. But only my attention was on conditionings. I didn't recognize Atman to be this way. If the above is true, then all effort on sadhaka's part is to accelerate the process, like pedaling while going downhill. You can accelerate the process by purifying the mind, but the previous statement is questionable. What is the previous statement? That with time, this knowledge will eventually take place. That is why we say, wherever we are placed, it is not random. You see, somebody in the Arctic does not have jijnasa for Brahma. If that person gets jijnasa, he will be picked from there and placed in a place where he will get what he wants. Right? Which sharira we get, where we are born, which environment we get, nothing is random. All of it is decided by our own desire. Right? So in that way, we should look at it. We are placed in the right place. Truth can never be revealed to any person with sufficient purity anywhere in the world, including outside. Can truth be revealed to somebody with sufficient purity anywhere in the world, including outside Bharata? Definitely, right? It is not location which matters. Because sadhana chatushtaya we saw, right, in Tattva Bodha. Did you see any criteria that that person should be born in Bharata? No. Only that person should have viveka, vairagya, shamadamadi shataka sampatti, mumukshutvam. It is so surprising in our Sandeepany course, right? From where all people come. From Russia, from China. Those who have not even heard about Vedanta, not even heard about Bhagavan in this life. Previous journey could have been very different. So that we should appreciate. is there a distinction in terms of sadhaka and a mumukshu, or are they similar in meaning? Sadhaka might be a mellower term than a mumukshu. Sadhaka, like for example, somebody might say, I'm living a dharmic life. I go to temple, I do my daily puja, I live, with family, everything I'm doing. So that person will be called as a sadhaka. Now somebody is doing all these things, but has decided the goal to be Brahma. That I want to abide in my nature as Brahman. That person is not only a sadhaka, but that person is a mumukshu. He is doing sadhana for no other goals but to abide in self. Because sadhana we can do for several reasons. And all of that is good. We should not look down upon any of it. If sakama desire is there, and we go and put it in front of Bhagavan, that is also a sadhaka only. But mumukshu is more fine-tuned. His searching direction has become more finer. Did you mention that Hastmalakacharya ji was already realized and he was born again? No, you don't have to look at it from jnana phala standpoint. You'll see a contradiction if you look at it that way. What it means is, before abidance and knowledge was gained, some other thing took this jiva to a different direction. Knowledge was there, but abidance did not come. That is why another body had to be taken. And only that abidance part is cleared over there. That is why Raja Bharata's story is a very precise example. He was doing sadhana, had this knowledge, everything was there. But that one dear desire took him away from that path. So in that way, pratibandha we say. Which is that verse in Yoga Vasishta that I quoted. I don't remember the number, but the verse goes, Akhinnam kshanamasinam pashya samsara natakam. Akhinnam kshanamasinam pashya samsara natakam. Okay, this was our tagline for the play that we did in Sandeepany after 1 year. All of us had to present Vedanta. And the title in the first line, opening line was this, Akhinnam kshanamasinam pashya samsara natakam. This is the nataka we are going to present now. Like that. All right, there is one more question. We will take it next time. I have noted it down. Hari Om everyone. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari.